Now the next speaker from the San Carlos Apache tribe, Clark Richens, has been working on the San Carlos Apache Reservation since 1990 with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and as the range and soil manager. Teresa Gazian and Clark are both graduates from the University of Arizona in renewable natural resources and range management, and has been working with the tribe since 1995. And Nicole Leister works for the San Carlos Apache Forest Resources since about 2014 and is a recent graduate from NAU in 2023. So thank you to the San Carlos Apache tribe for coming today and presenting.
I just really wanted to thank Laura for inviting us here and the great help that she's been for San Carlos Apache tribe. And Roy and Barry, they've been doing a lot of good work on San Carlos. So that's why we're here, because they've been helping us. So we're pretty low tech, I think, compared to some of the information that's came out here. But I really think more low tech is needed. So we're going to do this in a team approach.
Well, I'm Nicole. So the San Carlos Apache tribe did the Juniper Tank Pasture Rehabilitation Project, and it was stewarded by the Soil and Moisture Program in partnership with Forest Resources and Range Management, along with the Ash Creek Cattle Association. This was to address the soil erosions that were happening in the Juniper Tank Pasture areas due to improper transportation infrastructure. So we are located in southeastern Arizona. We are on the San Carlos Apache Reservation, which is about 1.8 million acres of land. And the Juniper Tank Pasture project area is about 480 acres. So some of the concerns that the Cattle Association were facing was that due to vegetation loss, this kind of downgraded their livestock management efforts for economical growth for the reservation. So there was two things that soil moisture had identified, was that the loss of productive soils and then the loss of productive and viable rangelands for the livestock management. So here are some of the pre-work pictures that we took prior to our work. And then here are the two objectives that were used to steward the project, which is to decrease topsoil erosion and excessive sediment into the San Carlos River, and then rehabilitate a livestock grazing pasture for utilization by the Ash Creek Cattle Association for continued economic growth and development. And here are some more of our pre-work slides, just kind of more of identifying areas where we needed to put in rock structures or check dams. And then here we are going to be addressing, this is how we were addressing a problem.
Hey everyone, I'm Teresa, and this is what Clark had mentioned, low tech, but to be honest with this Juniper pasture, it had an environmental assessment. It was all, if you knew Paul Buck, it's science to the max. We had through the EA, there was all these objectives, alternatives and stuff. One of them was to install the check dams to catch and slow water, reseeding the area, and then closing the roads. So that was the main cause of all the erosion to begin with. A lot of the material are natural, brought from the land. This is the trees that were cut in our conifer forest, utilizing our forestry personnel. We also used the bobcat, our excavator, and dug below, and then you can see we used the poles, the logs to go across, and they were all wrapped in that felt. And pretty much this is what we had. This area is about 16 to 18 inches annually precip. And as you can see, there's no grass. Everything is just running right into this and running off. There's no water. It's dry. And it's like this all the time. This is our Bible. It's becoming. And just as the other presenter, I don't recall, but this was the top of this dam reaches the toe of that and so forth all the way down. And a lot of these were done with that same style. And there was quite a bit done, and then some areas were brought in with rocks, and some were all three: rocks, the wood, and the felt. And these are all our management guides: our Ash Creek Livestock Association plan, our range management plan, forest management plan, soil and moisture plan, tribal integrated resource management plan, and the strategic plan. We all want the same thing, and it was to protect our watersheds, to restore them, to prevent and to try to minimize erosion. We also took the elders, the Apache elders, with their guiding principles. It was protect the land, to protect the water, that we are all part of the land, and everything that we do on the land should be a long-term project that's going to have some long-term effect. So our post work was this, and this wasn't very long after. This was in 2018, I believe, and this was after some summer rainfalls, and you can see it's already catching the sediment and holding water a little bit. And the roads were eventually closed. You can see this. Well, this road is still open, but the one that was causing a lot of the problems is closed. And then there's more. But you can see there, you know, right in here, this was taken just last week. And right in there, there's a lot more vegetation. There was some reseeding done in the area, but a lot of this is, the seed bank is already there, and it's come back naturally. And this here is, you wouldn't see this before, but I believe there could be a spring way up in there, because this is flowing. You can see from the previous slides that the water is real murky and everything, and that's from a different area. But this here is very clear, and it's a real steady stream flow. This one in particular, this was done probably 20 years ago with our range and land operations program, and we had just brought in just our crew, and we came in with rocks and just filled in these areas. And if you can kind of make out the little, you can barely see the tops of the rocks, but it took 20 years. And it wasn't as quick as the felt paper where you can see the sediment capture. This one took a little while, but it got there, and it's doing well. What else we have? And here's some others. And they will, you know, they will take time, and it's going to take some maintenance to go in and come in. And you can see, you know, we still have some animals coming in and kicking out the sides, and then the water will go around when we got to go in and do some maintenance on these.
I didn't introduce Nicole fully, but she just she started with us as a soil conservationist and started doing some really cool things there. And then her degree was in forestry, and forestry needed her back to do silvicultural practices. So that's what she's been doing lately. I just wanted to step back that there's a long history of these dams. It's nothing really new. And there's even prehistoric evidence of quite a few dams that have lasted over 1,000 years that are still very much intact and doing a lot of good. I think, you know, the ones that have lasted are on the lower gradient areas, and this is an example of some CCC era dams that are on valley floors. But you know, the amount of good that they did is hard to quantify. It's hard to quantify. So we've counted several hundred of these kind of in the lower Sonoran Desert areas, and you know, these were make work projects that were done for young men to provide income. And if you're familiar with CCC, the crux to the program was that I think they got like $25 a day or no, a month. I think it was $30 a month. 25 went to the family and 5 to the individual. Along those lines anyway. And while it operated, it made a lot of work and had thousands and thousands of workers out doing these types of kind of low tech, but taught life skills for 18 to 25-year-olds too. So. So the benefit to cost ratio I'll stand behind is astronomical. They're really low cost, simple structures. Usually just the one rock size. They can vary. Here's more the trinchera type that's a little bit taller. I put my pocket knife there and we call it 14 inches. But for such angular rock, I was surprised how well it's held together. Just the same dam from a different angle. This one's a little bit taller one that they put in a gully formation that follows with the linear one rock, and they put 3 inches high. It's 3 feet high. But it's a simple structure. But you know, I did some estimates of storage. At least 200 cubic yards of soil are held behind that, and it has been held for a long time. And it has a little bit of cutting beneath it, but then there's another dam right below that stops that head cut. So it's the downstream view. So we can kind of conclude that low-tech check dams are extremely effective and beneficial in the long term. Their effect on watershed health and soil conservation is extreme. Low input rock dams may fail, but they're really simple to maintain and replace, and without lots of cost. Healing our upper watersheds are necessary in treating the larger watershed. In arid land, conserving soil, promoting water infiltration are vital conservation practices. Pooled interagency funding opportunities are leading to a more comprehensive approach to implementing more rock check dams across boundaries, watersheds, and landscapes. And what I wanted to add there is, I think we didn't really mention so much in the presentation so far that the national fire policy shift has had a lot of influence. It's all of the bill and IRA funds that I could find were available for tribes through the Forest Service under the auspices of wildland fire. And so we were able to recently obtain quite a bit of funding for ecosystem management through fire. And we're looking at including beefing up our heavy equipment, our labor force, and a lot of training. But getting the people to do this type of work is where quite a bit of that funding is coming into fruition for us. So our plant, Laura's already mapped out some of our watersheds and give us some pretty comprehensive watershed maps of where we want to start and go cross boundaries on and off the boundary areas of the reservation. And I just want to point out our emphasis at this point is to treat the upland streams, the little gullies, everything. Not get into the bigger river systems at this point. We need to heal the uplands before we start spending more money on the bigger, either gully, extreme gully erosion or the actual river systems.
Thank you so much. We do have some time for questions. If anybody has a question to pose for the San Carlos. Pachi, question here?
Yes, so I've been told, I don't know if it's true, that animal trailing is a sign that the animals have been in a pasture too long and that the land might need more rest or more frequent rotation. Is that something that you guys have on your radar, or for this particular pasture or any other pastures in terms of the grazing management that's going along with the restoration?
Teresa might add more. When you said animal trailing, as far as The cow trails, I reflect on that as bad water distribution first off, and trying to improve range management by improving the infrastructure for better watering and salt grounds and those types of things. But also rest rotation could be a piece of it if you have year-long grazing. So, does that answer?
All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate you coming today.